I think there are elements of that statement which are correct. I think that the new market entrants have focused in the right areas, putting the customers at the centre of everything that they do. So the digital experience that those customers experience today in those neobanks and platforms is highly more centric to the requirements of what they're looking to try and do versus the slightly more monolithic, antiquated, I would suggest, financial institutions approach that they have taken. The speed of innovation matters. So if it takes financial institutions 6 months to get a product to marketplace, then the likelihood is that the neobanks will have already developed, built, tested, and taken that product to market. Those institutions that are able to get those products to the market quickly, that are relevant to their customers at the point in time, will be the winners. I think it's a true statement when you look at the data and analytics that the neobanks are looking to apply. Data is essentially the new oil in financial institutions, and that's been said for many times before. But fundamentally, where the neo-financial institutions have looked at things is that leveraging that data, making decisions upon that data, acting upon that data, real-time information has enabled them to really become hyper-personalised in the products and services that they're taking to the market. This is unlike some of the older financial institutions who take far too much time to market looking at the data before they can get their products into the space of the customers. And of course, then there's the cost efficiency. Legacy systems are expensive to maintain. The sooner financial institutions can reinvest that money into new technologies, new products that are relevant to the marketplace, the better they will be. However, the trust element that I talked about earlier, the credibility, the reliability is built over time with customers. This is something which new financial institutions and players haven't had the time to build, particularly in the older generations. Being with them through the thick and thin of those life events means that actually they've spent the time and they're unlikely to move away to these more digital savvy native institutions because of that heritage of trust. Not all customers want modern. Some customers, I go back to the generation issue that I mentioned earlier, want platforms that are just fit for purpose. They don't need the functional fit, they don't need the sexy digital ideation that sits around it that perhaps the younger generation are looking for. What may be more of a correct statement to make is every year without a modern foundation risks losing the digital savvy customers that are available on the marketplace. Banks ignore modernisation at their absolute peril. Most financial institutions have grasped the nettle on this transformation journey, but it needs to be embedded in the day-to-day disciplines of the organisation rather than isolated events of transformation on particular aspects that they focus on at a point in time. It needs to become a hygiene factor of just how they operate today.